Welcome back to the morning show here on the Rise News. President Muhammadu Buhari and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa have agreed to meet in October to discuss issues relating to the well-being of their citizens and ways to further strengthen trade relations between the two African largest economies.
Well, the two leaders will consider recurrent issues concerning the well-being of the Nigerian community in South Africa and the need to promote trade and investment.
It will be recalled that over 120 Nigerians had so far been reported killed and their businesses destroyed in xenophobic attacks across South Africa over the years.
To this end, various groups from Nigeria have been embarking on peaceful protests against the frequent xenophobic attacks on Nigerians living in South Africa.
So joining us now is a marketing communication expert and a social commentator, Dapo Daramola. Dapo, great to have you.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege coming on this show with you.
All right, Dapo, let's talk about this meeting. It's been a long time coming. President Muhammadu Buhari will be meeting with Cyril Ramaphosa as regards trade. We all know Nigeria and South Africa has got bilateral trade ties. But apart from the trade, how can trade move forward in an atmosphere of rancor?
Let's take, I like that question, but I'd like to start from the perspective of relationship, diplomatic relationship. Because once there's a breakdown of that, then trade can't thrive. You can't have foreign investment coming to your country. You know, in the past 2 decades or before now, Nigeria as a country was involved in ensuring that South Africa got a good atmosphere where they can thrive in business. But unfortunately, because we're Nigerians, we got into their space, and you know, every Nigerian want to always take over where they get to. Not because they want to, but because of their exposure and the opportunity. They see opportunity in everything. So as a country, we've been able to, from the business to business end in Nigeria, things are moving very well. But for government, between the two countries, the trade relationship will actually help to foster and boost more economic relationship, in terms of government, in terms of diplomatic policies. But for Nigeria as a nation, we're just big enough to contain you and small enough to know you. So if we don't have that good environment where we can do business, there's no point coming to do business in your place when I'm not sure of my return on investment. That, look, I'm deploying so much money here and I want a feedback, return over the period according to my forecast. But when we move from the point of relationship, when the two heads meet, the countries that are involved, Nigeria and South Africa, it can douse the tone. It can douse the pressure that the citizens have, done to themselves in terms of creating that enabling environment.
So you've talked about the impact of diplomatic relations on trade relations. Yes. That's what you're talking about. In 2018, February to be precise, President Cyril Ramaphosa visited Nigeria. And this was seen by a lot of people as a way to improve the frosty relationship between both countries, from government to people to people. But just looking down the line from 2018, we can count the numbers of Nigerians that have been killed in South Africa in very, unwarranted circumstances. Some, unthinkable.
True.
Up to last week. So what are your expectations really from this meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari visiting South Africa in October? Are your expectations high?
Well, they're quite high. But, again, it has to do with foreign policies. It has to do with the people. Now, when you have such attacks and, the president, the South African president came to Nigeria not too long ago, and we had they had discussions at that government-to-government level. But, the truth is, when those discussions don't cascade down to the citizenry, They don't understand the fact that they are both brothers. I mean, if you remember the impact of Nigeria as a country, what we did for South Africa during the time of, some of us even donated, some even went on the street to support. Mm-hmm. But today, they don't see it that way because the generation that is involved in this case, they're not too connected with history. Okay, I'm not saying they're not educated, because we just discussed education here. You can go to school. I like what you said, that school didn't go through some people. Do you understand? So education it has to be holistic. History is a magic. So when we have that in place, that look, these guys are your brothers. They fought for our freedom. They were partners in progress. Okay? So they are not your enemies. But of course, the average Nigerian, there's a study that said we are the most happiest nation. Whether things are bad, we still bring comic relief out of it. Okay? But that's not to say that we'll fold our hands. What the president will be talking about, I'm not one of his aides, but I see that this relationship, this discussion will help build relationship and will also foster, if we can take it down to the basics, to the roots of all this, then there can be engagements, because already we have South African businessmen doing big business in Nigeria, and we're not going after them. But Nigerians can do big business in South Africa, and they're going after them. So at this level, it's beyond just meeting, but coming out with a blueprint that will help the two countries to synergize and take absolute and optimum advantage of our relationship.
But a lot of people will say, do you think this meeting will do anything special? Because if you remember, about 2 years ago, I think it was still Jacob Zuma that was president then, they were about having an election and they were campaigning. And the campaign was against, we will send out the Nigerians that are taking your jobs. Great. So since the fact that Nigerians are taking their jobs is a political refrain in South Africa, do you think this will do anything? Because the mindset of the people, what goes down to them, and what their politicians are peddling is that Nigerians are taking their jobs.
Great. The truth is, like I said, history. If you look at the demography of the guys involved in this act, many of them they don't have knowledge of what happened 30 years ago, 20 years ago, pre-Mandela. Okay, pre-Mandela and post. Some are just social media students. They see things, they hear things. And of course, Nigerians are, there's this, if you look at history and you look at their culture, there are two things that play. You know that most of them were not in school during the time of the apartheid. And the ones that were in school were not properly, they don't have information. Okay? Now, you're bringing in people that see every other black person as they took our freedom initially. Yeah. Now we got the freedom back. Now they're taking our business. In fact, on the social side, some even say they're taking our ladies, So what are we talking about here? There's a fear factor. There's also the anger that is in the average South African. Now, when you go, they come here. I don't want to call brands because they didn't pay for it, yeah? You have airlines, you have malls that have South African equity or interest in Nigeria, and they're thriving. We're not going after them. Okay, we won't have a major satellite TV that is in Nigeria that has some base or it's whatever from South Africa, and they're doing so good business in Nigeria. But we're saying here that, look, listen, we're your brothers. So we need to start changing the discourse and saying that, look, these guys are your brothers. So we need to go back to history and say, we're your brothers. This is how far we've come. But we're not here to take your business. We're here to create commerce. You can work with us and let's build the economy. And maybe when time is right, we can begin to seed some of these businesses to you.
It's interesting how you've talked about recourse to history and, how South Africans, and the fulcrum of that is the apartheid. Yeah. And one wonders, has Nigeria even learned from its own history in dealing with its own internal relations? And my question really is, Do you think, or don't you think, that it is time Nigeria moves beyond this entitlement sentiment of helping South Africa during the apartheid? Because it seems to be the only thing we hold on to whenever South Africa comes to play.
Okay. You see, the truth is, I like the thing, the last what you said, that we should stop holding on to that is the past, we agree. But you see, without the foundation, what can you do if you don't have a good foundation? You know what I mean? Okay, we say we are the giants of Africa.
Can we prove that?
Well, in size, we can. Maybe technology, maybe in the current digital age, we're thriving. Maybe in entertainment, we're taking our space. But we're not saying that we're holding on to that, but we're just saying, look, we are part of you. We want to help you build. We were there with you when you were going through your pain period, and now you're back to your glorious times. So let's do these things together. Let's work together.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Who are you saying that to? The black or the white South Africans? Because all the companies you said are owned by South Africans here are owned by the white South Africans, not the black South Africans. It's the black South Africans that are killing Nigerians and perpetrating xenophobia. So who are you saying that? Who do you want to help build in South Africa?
Okay.
Who do you want to help build?
Well, like I said, the blacks, the Nigerians that are taking their business to South Africa is because they see a market there. And you see, when you take your business to a country, what you're doing is you're creating commerce and you're helping the GDP grow. You're going to create jobs. Now, good. What you said is the whites are taking their business out. Okay? But someone has to build business in the country because they probably feel we can't leave these jobs to this. They're not equipped. They're not emotionally equipped. They're not academically sound to take these jobs. Okay? So they want to take it to where, of course, as a businessman, you want to take your investment to where you have a huge ROI, return on investment. You don't want to sink so much currency, hard-earned currency in an economy or a place where you're not sure you'll get. Let's even come back home. We know of a refinery.
Okay, one thing is certain. We'll talk about this even more and talk about the dichotomy between the white and black South Africans, all right? We're still talking to Dapo Daramola, marketing communication expert. And we're talking about, the visit that will coming up in October between President Muhammadu Buhari and Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa, and as regards trade relations in both countries and both sides of the continent. And it's an exciting conversation, isn't it?
It is. We'll take a break now. We'll be back to discuss some more. Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. Dapo Daramola, a marketing communication expert and social commentator, is still here with us in the studios talking about the planned visit of President Muhammadu Buhari to South Africa in October. And this is happening after Nigeria finally signs the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. We do know these two economies, which are the largest on the continent, are competitive.
Definitely.
How can they balance this competition? Although Nigeria is categorized as the largest economy, South Africa, on the other hand, is the largest industrialized economy on the continent. With the foregoing issues, with the ongoing issues diplomatic-wise, do you think that there can be a balance of trade between these two? How can they foster that across-the-border trade and investment?
Yeah, they can be. You see, what this does to us is it helps us to build on our strength as a continent. And if you're looking at the market, really, Nigeria is where everybody wants to come to because of the numbers. South Africa has industry, yeah, but industry without outlets is like a waste. You have a clog, and when there's too much supply, demand will drop. I mean, when there's no demand and supply, law of demand and supply, it push down price. So for us as Africans, Nigeria and South Africa, we will have a good balance of trade. I can assure. I mean, I know that for the fact that because of my background, but I see the two countries leveraging on each other's comparative advantage. Okay, mind you, industry globally. Industry is not one of the, not going to be the cash cow soon. Even though, yeah, there will be, we need to use things, we need to build products and the rest. But technology, and so from the point of technology, we have that too in Nigeria as a nation, which we can also leverage on. Of course, we also have the entertainment industry, which we can also leverage on. So in terms of comparative advantage, look at most of the reality shows. The one that is trending now is held here in Nigeria. It used to be there, you know, so, and you can see what that does to our economy in terms of even the telcos, the texting, the people.
But most of those monies are still repatriated back to the South African economy.
Well, not directly.
How?
Not directly. Because you are still going to pay a cost here.
Oh, yeah?
So they're going to have to, that cost that is generated here must be absorbed by that organization.
But we all know the case of huge capital flight. We don't want to mention names, but I mean,
those are part of
if you don't want to
the
talk about
you get on investment.
If you don't want to talk about that, let's not talk about that. But we all know those conversations. But quickly, let's move on to something that is quite germane for me. Is the relationship between those that are said to be the segregated lot in South Africa, the black South Africans, and their fellow, Nigerians in this case. Another taxi driver killed in the space of how many? A top Nigerian insurance person was killed, and it's as though it's a slippery slope. What will you tell President Muhammadu Buhari and his Foreign Affairs Minister and his entourage when they go there at the Union Building in Pretoria to speak to Cyril Ramaphosa? What would you tell them to do to improve the local interpersonal relationship? Because it's the local interpersonal relationship now
that is broken down.
That is broken down.
Yeah. I think what I would want a president to do and his team, I mean, of course, we have capable hands working in that ministry and the team, is to ensure that they begin to create...
A ministry that has no minister yet. The minister...
on the 21st.
On the 21st.
No, the ministers...
August 21st.
They have permanent secretaries. They have a ministry that is running. So he's just coming in as the executive head there. But, like I said, what they will do is to ensure that they get everybody involved. They need to go to the root of the problem, which is trust and anger. Anger from the point of, we've not had freedom, we now got freedom, then some guys from Africa are coming to take the pie, the lion's share of the pie. Now, what they're going to also do is to help foster that relationship. It could be through advocacy, through campaigns, conscious campaigns, and then get the South African government to give us assurance that they will do everything. I heard what one of the, in Nigerian, somebody in the entertainment industry, Tayo, I mean, I don't know if you...
He was harassed by the police in South Africa.
Exactly, but he was also giving, he was also talking to encourage Nigerians not to pull the trigger. Nance said something.
Issued an ultimatum.
And then the minister, some South African...
Minister of International Relations and
came
Cooperation.
and was saying they should... I mean, we don't need all that, okay? What we need to do now is to build blocks. I mean, build relationship, have exchange programs, get our social entertainment people to be involved. We've had them do collabo with Nigerians, the likes of... I forgot.
If you want to go back to history, we sang Free Mandela in this country.
Exactly. In fact, one of our musicians made so much money through the telco just because of the Mandela birthday, and just Mandela is an iconic individual that we cannot push away. Okay, so we can leverage on a lot of things that can help build those broken relationships. It could be social, it could be entertainment, it could be music, it could be drama, you know, it could be sports. So I think what the government needs to do is look at the avenue where they can cement that relationship, where they can harness the potentials of both countries and come together in a way that will help build one continent of giants. I mean, we're big, they're big. You know, if we come together, it can only be better for Africa.
I share your optimism, but when you look at the rhetorics in recent times, we've had the President of the Senate, Hamid Lawan, you know, issue warnings to the South African government, but that did not stop the killings because more killings came after that. We've had President Ramaphosa visit Nigeria, assuring President Muhammadu Buhari he will look into the matter. That did not stop the killings 1 year down the line. Now, NANS has issued an ultimatum. It's not the first time they are issuing, because it's not the first time we're having these xenophobic attacks. But let me take you up on that, because the response of the minister you talked about, she says, you know, the ultimatum by NANS to picket or to drive away South African businesses from Nigeria is unwarranted because it is not true. It does not depict the true relationship between government and people of South Africa and Nigeria. That there's nothing like that. Nobody's speaking on selected African countries in South Africa. When you hear such a response from a minister from South Africa, do you still have that optimism that, you know, there's adequate response from the South African government to the situation?
One thing I want you to understand is when we talk of foreign policy or foreign diplomacy, you see, some individuals are either emotional and they just say things that they shouldn't say, you know. And if you notice, the Nigerian government has been very, very careful in making statements that will ignite what they don't intend by way of either utterances or by way of action. I mean, it's true. They've given assurance, they've said things in the past. But you see, a country that is so big, you cannot control what happens at, like AJ City, for example. If they say Ajegunle or some other climes, even in the East, my brothers in the East are they're part of the most affected set of people in Nigeria that have had that attack. You know, but if they want to go to the street, and that tells you how strong the Nigerian spirit is. You know, we're loving people, even in the middle of frustration.
But a lot of people say that spirit is docility. No. You dare not kill an African American like that on the streets of South Africa without the Trump that sits at the White House not reprising in one way or the other. You dare not do that.
That's the diplomacy concept.
So the reason why the Minister of South Africa can say that is because of the docility on our part. That's what a lot of people are saying. That you dare not try it. See what America did with Iran, for instance.
You see, let me tell you something, yeah? When we're talking of diplomacy, foreign diplomacy, okay, there's a way we communicate, okay? We are not perfect. Even the South Africans are not perfect yet, okay? You need to understand that where they're coming from is not a very rosy place, okay?
So where they're coming from, we are definitely going to try to go there sometime soon with another conversation.
We'll review the visit. Coming on the show this morning, and happy holidays. That brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Adesoa Omoran.
And I'm Rufai Sidi. Happy holidays to everybody out there.
And enjoy your holiday indeed.